The day Emily helped her best friend's brother move into town, she thought it was just another Saturday. The air was crisp, the leaves half-turned, and the small town of Maple Ridge looked golden in the morning light. She had no idea that one simple favor would change her life and stay with her forever. It started with a phone call from her best friend, Claire. Claire's brother Ryan was moving back home after years away. His new job was in the city, but he wanted to stay close to family, at least for a while. Claire had her hands full with her newborn, so she asked Emily if she could lend a hand. Emily agreed without hesitation. She'd known Ryan since high school, though not well. He was a year older, quiet, always polite. She remembered his calm voice and the way he'd help teachers stack chairs after class, but that was a long time ago. People change. That morning, Emily pulled up in her old silver SUV, the one that rattled slightly when she braked. Ryan was already there, lifting boxes from a moving truck. He looked different, taller somehow, broader, but there was still that same quiet steadiness in his eyes. "Hey, stranger," Emily called out. Ryan smiled. "You came. Claire said you might bail," she laughed, rolling her eyes. "I never bail on moving days. I just regret agreeing later." They both laughed, and for a moment, it felt easy, like time hadn't passed at all. The day went by in steady rhythm, unpacking, carrying boxes, taking breaks to sip water and talk about small things. Ryan's new place was a modest two-bedroom apartment above a bakery. The smell of cinnamon and sugar drifted up through the open windows. They took a break around noon, sitting on the floor with sandwiches and cold tea. Emily noticed little things. The way Ryan lined up his tools neatly, the faint scar on his left wrist, the way he glanced out the window before answering questions. He was kind but guarded, so how's Claire? Emily asked. Tired, he said with a soft grin. Motherhood's a full-time job. But she's happy. I'm just glad I can be nearby. Emily nodded. She misses you. We both did. Ryan looked at her then, and for a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. The sound of traffic below filled the silence. Emily looked away first, her face warm for no reason she could explain. Later that evening, when the last box was unpacked, Ryan offered to walk her to her car. The sun was setting, painting the sky in soft pink and orange streaks. Thanks again, Emily, he said. You really didn't have to. I wanted to, she replied. Besides, someone had to make sure you didn't put your bed together backwards. He laughed quietly. You always were bossy. Efficient, she corrected, smiling. They stood by her car, neither in a hurry to leave. The air grew cooler and she crossed her arms, so, what made you move back? She asked. Ryan hesitated, looking down at the cracked pavement. Needed a change. Some things didn't work out. Thought maybe home would make sense again. She wanted to ask what didn't work out, but something in his tone stopped her. He didn't owe her those details. Not yet. Instead, she said, Well, welcome back. It's good to have another familiar face around. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. He looked at her then. Really looked. It's good to see you too, Emily. She got in her car, waved, and drove away. But even as she turned onto the main road, she could see him in her mirror, standing there, hands in his pockets, watching her go. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the faint smile on Ryan's face, the way the light had caught his eyes at sunset. It shouldn't have meant anything, but it did. Over the next few days, they texted about small things, how the coffee shop downstairs had good muffins, how his kitchen faucet leaked, how he still couldn't find his favorite wrench. It was casual, friendly, safe. Until the evening Claire invited them both over for dinner. It was supposed to be just the three of them. But halfway through the meal, Claire was called away to calm her crying baby, leaving Emily and Ryan alone at the table. The kitchen lights were dim and rain tapped softly against the window. Ryan glanced toward the hallway, then back at her. You ever notice how fast time moves? He asked. Emily tilted her head. Sometimes, why? Feels like yesterday we were kids. Then suddenly, he shrugged. You blink and you're starting over. She nodded slowly. Yeah, life sneaks up on you. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. Maybe some things are worth starting over for. Emily didn't know what he meant, but she felt something shift inside her, a quiet awareness that maybe this wasn't just a reunion. Maybe something deeper was beginning, something neither of them planned. When she left that night, he walked her to her car again. This time, the air was heavy with the smell of rain and something unspoken between them. He opened her door, but his hand brushed hers. Just a brief touch, accidental, or maybe not. Good night? Emily, he said softly. Good night, she whispered back. Driving home, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about Ryan's return wasn't simple. There was a sadness behind his calm, a story he hadn't told, and somehow she knew it would find its way to her. That night, thunder rolled across Maple Ridge, and as Emily stared at the ceiling in the dark, she couldn't stop thinking about him, about that look in his eyes that said he was hiding something that might change everything. The next morning, Emily woke up to a message from Ryan. Ryan, sorry if I kept you too long last night. You got home safe? Emily, yeah, barely dodged the rain. You? Ryan, didn't sleep much. Place feels too quiet. She smiled at her phone, thumbs hovering for a moment before replying. Emily, guess you'll get used to it. Or you could grab coffee with me tomorrow. That helps, he replied a minute later. Ryan, you sure? I wouldn't want to bother you. Emily, it's coffee, not a contract. 11 at Hazel's Cafe? Ryan, I'll be there. It was simple, normal, but the idea of seeing him again made her pulse quicken in a way she couldn't explain. Hazel's Cafe sat on a corner downtown, its windows fogged from the morning chill. Emily got there first, ordered 2 coffees, and tried not to glance at the door every few seconds. When Ryan walked in, he looked different, less tired, more alive. He smiled when he saw her, that same soft, familiar smile that made her chest tighten. Hey, he said, sliding into the chair across from her. You beat me. Always, she said with a grin. So, how's apartment life treating you? He chuckled. Turns out I can cook exactly one thing, eggs. Everything else burns. Impressive skill set, she teased. You'll survive. They talked for nearly 2 hours. About work, about the town, about old friends. He told her little stories, how he'd once tried to surf on a door when he was 12, how Claire still owed him $50 from a lost bet. Emily found herself laughing more than she had in months. There was a warmth between them, unspoken but steady. When they finally stepped outside, the wind had picked up. Leaves swirled across the sidewalk, and Ryan tucked his hands into his jacket pockets. You ever feel like you came back to a place that doesn't feel like home anymore? He asked suddenly. Emily looked at him, surprised. You mean Maple Ridge? He nodded. Yeah, it looks the same, but something's different. Or maybe it's me. She wanted to say something comforting, but before she could, he smiled faintly. Sorry, didn't mean to get deep on a coffee date. Who said it was a date? She teased, though her voice came out softer than she meant. He smiled, eyes glinting. Guess I was hoping it was. Her heart skipped, but before she could answer, a car horn blared from the street, breaking the moment. She exhaled a small laugh, shaking her head. Maybe next time we pick somewhere quieter. Deal, he said. They started seeing each other often after that. Grocery runs, coffee stops, small favors that turned into long walks. It was easy. Too easy, maybe. But beneath every smile, Emily felt something heavier building. A curiosity, a question she hadn't dared ask yet. What exactly had sent him back home? One evening, she dropped by his place with a box of cookies from the bakery below. Ryan was on the couch, surrounded by half-open boxes and a guitar case. You play? She asked, setting the cookies down. Used to, he said. Not much anymore. Why'd you stop? He hesitated. Life happened, I guess. Emily sat beside him, the couch creaking softly. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. He glanced at her then, eyes dark and thoughtful. You ever make a choice you thought was right? And it ends up costing you everything? The question caught her off guard. Yeah, she whispered. Once. He nodded, looking down at his hands. Then you understand. There was silence. The kind that feels like a heartbeat between two people who don't know what to say next. Then Ryan stood up suddenly, running a hand through his hair. Sorry, I'm terrible company tonight. Ryan, no, really. I'm just not ready to explain it all yet. Emily rose, her voice quiet. You don't owe me an explanation. He looked at her, his jaw tight. Maybe not. But if I don't tell you, I think you'll walk away. I won't, she said, meeting his eyes. Something in him softened then, and for a long second neither moved. Finally, he sighed, stepping closer. You're too kind, Emily. I don't deserve that. She smiled faintly. Let me decide that. He looked like he wanted to say more, but instead he just whispered, Thank you. When she left, the air outside was cold and still. She glanced up at his window as she got into her car. The light was still on, and she could see his shadow moving slowly across the room, pacing. Something inside her told her he was fighting something unseen, and she wasn't sure whether she was meant to save him or be caught in it. That night, her phone buzzed. Ryan. There's something I've been meaning to tell you. Can we talk tomorrow? Emily's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Her heart beat faster. Emily. Of course. Where? His reply came quick. Ryan. My place. Around 7. She typed back a simple, okay, but as she set her phone down, a strange unease crept in. Maybe it was the tone in his text. Or maybe it was the way her chest ached at the thought of what he might say. Either way, she knew tomorrow would change things, one way or another. Emily could hardly focus the next day. Every tick of the clock seemed louder, every minute slower. By 6 o'clock, her nerves were on edge. She told herself it was nothing serious. Maybe Ryan just wanted to talk about work or about how he'd been feeling lately. But deep down, she knew it was more than that. The heaviness in his voice, the hesitation in his texts, it all meant something. By 6:45, she was standing outside his apartment building, clutching her coat tighter against the evening chill. The bakery downstairs had closed early, and the air smelled faintly of sugar and rain. When Ryan opened the door, his expression was unreadable. Hey, he said softly. Come in. The apartment looked dimmer than before. Only a lamp in the corner lit the room, casting warm shadows on the walls. He motioned toward the couch. Can I get you something? Tea? Coffee? She shook her head. I'm fine. He sat across from her, elbows resting on his knees. For a long time, neither spoke. Then finally, he drew in a breath. I didn't come back to Maple Ridge because I missed it, he said, or because of family. I came back because I didn't have anywhere else to go. Emily frowned slightly. What do you mean? Ryan rubbed his palms together, looking down. I lost everything, Emily. My job, my home, my fiancé. All in 1 month. Her breath caught. Your fiancé? He nodded. Her name was Lily. We were together for 4 years. I thought I'd spend my life with her. He paused, eyes distant. Then she got sick. I tried to be there, but the hospital bills piled up. My job started slipping, and I made choices I regret. When she passed, I couldn't stay in that city anymore. Everything there reminded me of her. Emily felt the air shift between them. The pain in his voice was raw and unfiltered. I'm so sorry, Ryan, she whispered. He shook his head. Don't be. It's been a year, and I still wake up some mornings expecting her to call me. But she doesn't. She never will. Silence hung heavy. The hum of the refrigerator filled the room. Emily reached across the table, hesitating only a second before touching his hand. You don't have to face it alone, she said. Ryan looked up at her, his eyes glistening in the soft light. "That's the thing. I thought I did. Until you showed up again." Her heart ached. She could feel the weight of his grief pressing. Close, and yet beneath it, something else flickered. Something fragile but alive. "Ryan," she murmured, "you've been through more than anyone should." He gave a weak smile. "You know what's strange? I wasn't planning to tell you any of this. But when I saw you again, it felt like maybe I could breathe for the first time in a long time." Emily didn't know what to say, so she didn't say anything. She just sat there, holding his hand, letting the quiet fill the space between them. After a while, Ryan stood up and walked to the window. "It still doesn't feel real sometimes," he said. "Like she's just away somewhere." Emily rose too, stepping beside him. Outside, the streetlights glowed against the wet pavement, reflecting gold in the puddles. "She must have loved you," Emily said softly. He turned to her. "I loved her more than I knew how to show." Their eyes met, and for a long second, it felt as if time stopped. There was no sound, no movement, just the quiet pull of two people standing too close, both caught between the past and something uncertain. Then Ryan spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I shouldn't have told you all that." "Why not?" "Because it's not fair," he said, shaking his head. "You don't need to carry my ghosts." "Ryan," she said gently, "maybe you don't see it, but talking about it doesn't make me run away. It makes me care more." He looked at her then, really looked, and something in his eyes softened. He reached out, his hand brushing her cheek in a gesture that was more comfort than romance. "I don't know what I'm doing," he admitted. "I'm still broken, Em." "Then we'll figure it out," she said, "one day at a time." For a moment, he looked like he might cry, but instead, he just nodded. "You're too good to me." She smiled faintly. "Maybe I just see something worth being good to." They stood like that for a while, quiet and close, until the rain outside faded into a soft drizzle. When she finally left, Ryan walked her to her car again. He didn't say much, only whispered, "Thank you for listening." Emily drove home in silence. Her mind was full of him, of Lily, of the fragile connection they now shared. She knew she should keep her distance, give him time to heal, but her heart had already crossed that line. That night, she dreamt of him standing in the rain, holding something small and shining in his hand. When she woke, the dream felt too real, like a memory she wasn't supposed to have. And when she checked her phone, there was a message from Ryan. "Ryan, can we talk again tomorrow? There's more you should know." Emily stared at the screen, her pulse quickening. Whatever he had to tell her next, it wasn't over. Not yet. The next day came with a strange heaviness in the air. Clouds rolled low over Maple Ridge, pressing down like a storm waiting to break. Emily tried to focus on work, but every thought circled back to Ryan. He said there was more she should know. By 7 that evening, she found herself once again outside his apartment. This time, the door was already open. Ryan stood inside, leaning against the counter, a cup of coffee untouched beside him. He looked tired, more than usual. "Hey," she said quietly. He gave a faint smile. "You always come when I ask." "I told you I would." He motioned for her to sit. "I need to tell you the rest. You deserve to know everything before—" He stopped, shaking his head. "Before what?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. He exhaled slowly. "Before you start thinking I'm someone I'm not." Emily frowned. "Ryan, I already know who you are." "No," he said softly. "You know the parts I've let you see." He paced once, running a hand through his hair. "Lily's death. It wasn't just an illness. It was an accident. And I was the one driving." Emily froze. "What?" He looked at her, eyes full of guilt. We were coming back from a weekend trip. It was late, and I was too tired. She told me to pull over, but I didn't. I thought I could make it. A deer ran out in front of us, and I swerved. His voice broke. She didn't make it, Emily. I did. The words hung in the air like a physical weight. Emily's heart ached for him, for the pain etched into every line of his face. She swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. Ryan, it was an accident. You didn't mean I killed her, he said sharply. Then softer. I've lived with that every day since. I moved back here because I couldn't stand seeing her things, hearing people ask how I was. I didn't deserve their sympathy. Emily reached for his hand, but he pulled away, eyes wet. Don't, he whispered. If you touch me right now, I'll fall apart. She stood slowly. Then fall apart, Ryan. You don't have to keep holding this alone. He turned toward the window, shoulders tense. The rain had started again, tapping gently on the glass. You shouldn't care about me, he said. I'm the last person who deserves kindness. Emily's voice trembled. You can't keep punishing yourself forever. He let out a bitter laugh. Tell that to her family. I would, she said, stepping closer. If I thought it would change anything. But it wouldn't. And neither will drowning in guilt. For a long moment he didn't answer. Then finally he turned around. His face was pale, eyes red-rimmed, but there was something vulnerable there. Something almost childlike. Why are you still here? He asked quietly. Because I believe people can come back from their worst mistakes, she said. Even you. He stared at her, and for a second, the air between them felt alive, charged with something neither could name. Then he shook his head, voice breaking. You shouldn't. Maybe not, she whispered, but I do. He stepped closer, his hand trembling as it brushed her sleeve. You make me want to believe I'm not lost. You're not, she said softly. You just need someone to remind you. He closed his eyes, exhaling shakily. You have no idea what you're doing to me. Maybe I do, she said. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of everything unspoken between them. The kind of silence that holds both pain and hope. Then Ryan took a step back, as if suddenly realizing the distance they'd closed. I can't, he murmured. Not now, not like this. Emily's throat tightened. I'm not asking for anything. Just, don't shut me out. He nodded slowly. I'll try. But as she turned to leave, he stopped her. Emily. She looked back. He hesitated, then said, I keep seeing her in dreams. She's by the water, calling my name. Sometimes I think she's trying to tell me something. Something I'm missing. Emily's pulse quickened. What do you mean? He shook his head. I don't know. But every time I wake up, I feel like I've forgotten something important. Something she wanted me to remember. The wind outside howled softly against the windows, and for a moment, neither spoke. Finally, Emily said, Maybe it's not about punishment, Ryan. Maybe she's trying to help you forgive yourself. He looked at her for a long moment. Or maybe she wants me to make things right. How? He hesitated. There's one more thing you don't know. Emily's heart pounded. What is it? Ryan looked toward the closed door of his bedroom, his expression unreadable. Something I kept from everyone, including Claire. He turned back to her, his voice low. If I show you, you'll understand why I can't let this go. Emily took a slow breath. Then show me. He walked toward the bedroom door, his hand resting on the knob, but before he opened it, he looked over his shoulder. Once you see this, he said quietly, you won't look at me the same way again. Ryan stood still for a moment, hand on the door, as if weighing whether to open it. The storm outside had grown louder, rain drumming against the glass. Emily's heartbeat matched the rhythm. Ryan, she said softly, Whatever's in there. I can handle it. He glanced back at her, his eyes unreadable, then turned the knob. The door creaked open. Inside was a small, dimly lit room. A single lamp glowed faintly in the corner, illuminating a desk covered in papers, photos, and what looked like a stack of unopened letters. Emily stepped closer, her breath catching when she saw them, pictures of Lily, smiling, laughing, holding Ryan's hand on some forgotten summer day. There were candles, too. Dried flowers, a small pendant resting on a folded piece of paper. It's like a shrine, she whispered. Ryan nodded slowly. It is. I kept it hidden because I couldn't let go. He moved closer to the desk, touching the pendant gently. She gave me this the day before she died. Said it was for luck. Emily's eyes softened. You've kept everything just like that day. He nodded again. I come here every night. Sometimes I talk to her. Sometimes I just sit. The rawness in his voice pulled at something deep inside her. She took a hesitant step closer. Ryan, this isn't wrong. You loved her. I still do, he said quietly. But I think she's been trying to tell me it's time to let go. Every night that dream, it feels less like she's haunting me and more like she's waiting for me to move on. Emily felt her throat tighten. Maybe she is. Ryan turned toward her, his eyes full of grief and gratitude all at once. You think she'd forgive me? I think she already has, Emily said. You just need to forgive yourself. He closed his eyes, exhaling a shaky breath. I don't know how. She moved closer until they were only inches apart. Start small. Stop punishing yourself for surviving. Start by believing that maybe you deserve peace. 2. Ryan looked at her then. Really looked. And in that moment, something inside him seemed to break and heal at once. I don't know what I'd have done if you hadn't helped me move in that day, he said softly. You showed up when I'd already given up. Emily smiled faintly, eyes glistening. Maybe that's why I was supposed to. He nodded, his voice trembling. You make this place feel like home again. They stood in silence, surrounded by the echoes of the past. The air felt different now, lighter somehow, though the ache remained. Then Ryan reached for the pendant on the desk, turning it over in his palm. I think it's time, he said. For what? To say goodbye? He opened the window, the rain soft against his face. He held the pendant out, whispering something Emily couldn't quite hear. Then, gently, he let it fall into the night. The silver chain glimmered once under the streetlight, then disappeared into the dark. When he closed the window, his shoulders relaxed for the first time since she'd known him. Emily stepped closer, resting her hand on his arm. You did the right thing. He looked down at her hand, then back at her. It feels like I can finally breathe. They walked back into the living room together. The storm outside began to fade, the thunder rolling into the distance. Ryan sank onto the couch, his voice quiet. I thought I'd never stop seeing that night every time I closed my eyes. But now I see her smiling again. Not in pain. Emily sat beside him. Maybe that's her way of saying she's at peace. He turned to her, eyes soft. You think I could ever deserve something good again? She smiled gently. You already do. He stared at her for a long moment before speaking again. You said once that people can come back from their worst mistakes. Do you really believe that? I do, she said. Because I've seen you try. He nodded slowly. Then, quietly. And if I told you that I want to start again, with someone who reminds me what life feels like, would that be too soon? Emily's heart trembled at his words. She reached for his hand, fingers intertwining. Maybe not too soon, maybe right on time. Outside, the rain finally stopped. The world seemed still, washed clean. They sat together, saying nothing more. Both knowing the past would always live somewhere inside them, but no longer as a wound. For the first time in a long while, Ryan smiled. Not the polite smile he gave to hide the ache, but something real, quiet, and alive. Emily squeezed his hand, returning it. That night when she drove home, she glanced in her rearview mirror and saw him standing at his window, watching her taillights fade. This time, he wasn't haunted, he was beginning again, and somewhere deep inside, Emily knew that what happened after she helped him move in, though painful, strange, and full of shadows, had changed both their lives for good. It no longer haunted her. It humbled her, and it taught her something she would never forget. Sometimes, helping someone carry their boxes means helping them carry their ghosts too.